Hey everyone, ready to take a deep dive into something that can really boost your IT career?
Yeah, we're talking about project management today.
Exactly, that thing that takes a tech project from just an idea.
To actually launching, yeah.
And we're talking about everything. Certifications,
Like the PMP,
to methodologies,
Agile, waterfall,
all of it.
even how to avoid those project disasters we've all heard about.
So no more dreaming about those promotions, right? Let's figure out how to actually make it happen.
Sounds good.
But first, what exactly does project management mean, especially for IT?
Well, it's more than just following a to-do list, right?
Right.
That's for sure. Imagine building something like a smartphone.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Just throwing parts together.
A total chaos.
Chaos, exactly.
Yeah.
Project management is how we bring order to that.
Makes sense.
It's about using the right strategies and tools to go beyond just meeting goals.
You mean exceeding them?
Exceeding them, yeah, which is what IT is all about.
I keep seeing this PMP certification pop up in our sources.
Right, it's not just some acronym to add to your LinkedIn profile.
So it actually means something.
It's more like a VIP pass in the tech world.
Yeah.
Having those letters on your resume shows you're serious.
Shows you can handle things.
Yeah, the pressure, the deadlines, like those software launches.
It's like huge budgets, right?
Exactly. A missed deadline there can cost a fortune.
Makes sense. So we know project management is important.
Definitely.
And that PMP certification seems like the gold standard.
It is.
But where do you even begin with all this?
Well, imagine planning a big trip, like to Europe.
Okay, I like where this is going.
You wouldn't just show up at the airport, no plan, no itinerary.
Oh, absolutely not.
That'd be crazy. You'd want to map out everything. Project management follows a similar roadmap. It's a life cycle that helps your projects reach their destination successfully.
And our sources break it down into 5 stages, like planning those stops on your European adventure.
Right, and each stage is important.
So let's unpack them, shall we? Get into those insider tips?
Let's do it.
Starting with
initiation. This is where you set the goals for your project and figure out what's included.
So like choosing between backpacking through the Alps.
Or a luxury cruise, yeah.
Both are trips, but totally different, right?
Exactly. Each requires a different plan, budget, resources.
So you need to know what you're aiming for right from the start.
A shared understanding with your team, like agreeing on the destination before booking any flights. This is where you draft the project charter, outlining the objectives, who's involved, the overall plan.
Your project compass, basically.
Exactly.
Guiding you through. So once you know where you're going, it's time for stage 2, planning.
Planning, right? This is where you get into the nitty-gritty.
Sketch out the details.
Exactly. It's like, now that you know you're going to Europe, are you flying, taking trains? What are you doing? It's about creating a detailed plan for your project. The budget, the timeline, potential risks.
Like mapping out your route, booking those hotels.
Precisely. You got to plan for those must-see attractions, right?
And just like with a well-planned trip, I'm guessing there are some tools that can make this whole process smoother.
Oh, there are some tools out there that would even impress a professional traveler.
No kidding. Like what?
Well, Gantt charts, for instance, are super helpful.
Gantt charts, okay.
They give you a visual timeline of the entire project.
Oh, that makes sense.
You can see all the tasks, when they need to be done, who's responsible.
Keeps everyone on the same page.
Exactly, even if your team is scattered around the world.
Nice. Okay, so we've got our project goals set, we've got our plan, our Gantt chart. Time to actually make it happen.
Time for stage 3, execution.
Let's do it. This is where we get our hands dirty, right?
This is where everything comes together. All that planning we talked about becomes reality.
So it's like actually going on that European trip now.
Exactly. You're hopping on flights, navigating train stations, experiencing new places.
Sounds exciting. But I bet even with the best plans,
things can go wrong.
Oh, for sure. Delays happen.
Projects can be unpredictable, like encountering those unexpected flight cancellations or even language barriers on your trip. That's why we have stage 4, monitoring and control.
So it's like checking your map, adjusting your route if needed, making sure you're still on track.
Exactly. In project terms, it's about keeping a close watch on everything.
Catching those potential roadblocks early.
Right. Is the project on schedule? Within budget? It's about communicating effectively with everyone involved, too.
It's like having that travel buddy who's always thinking ahead, anticipating problems.
And coming up with solutions on the fly, definitely.
Okay, I like that. So let's say everything goes relatively smoothly.
Hopefully.
We've reached our final destination. What's next?
Time for stage 5, project closure.
Time to celebrate, right? Enjoy those memories from the trip.
A celebration is always a good idea. But in project management, it's about formally closing things out.
So more than just popping champagne.
Well, you can do that too.
Uh-huh, fair enough.
But it's about handing over the final product, documenting what worked well, what didn't, gathering those lessons for next time.
Like coming back from your trip with souvenirs and stories.
Exactly. Those insights make your next project even better.
Makes sense. So that's the 5-stage journey of a project.
It's a journey that, when done right, turns you into a project maestro.
Okay, I like that. But we've got to have the right tools, the right knowledge to navigate those stages properly.
And that's where those 10 knowledge areas from the Project Management Institute come in, the PMI.
Right, the PMI, those are like those travel essentials you don't leave home without, right?
Exactly. Think of them as your project management toolkit. Each area equips you with specific skills to tackle different challenges.
Like a phrase book for communication, a first aid kit for problems, right?
Exactly.
So let's unpack these knowledge areas. First up, we've got project integration management. Sounds kind of basic.
It does, but it's more complex than it sounds.
Really? How so?
Well, it's about making sure all the pieces of your project work together smoothly.
So it's not about any single task, but about connecting them all.
Exactly. Like, think about a software development project.
Lots of moving parts there.
You've got developers, designers, testers. They all need to be on the same page.
Otherwise, things get messy.
Lost in translation moments,
Yeah.
delays, all of that. Project integration management helps prevent that.
So everyone understands their role and how it all fits together.
Exactly. It's about that big picture thinking.
Yeah.
And speaking of keeping things in check, our next knowledge area is all about setting those boundaries
Boundaries, okay.
and preventing something we call scope creep.
Scope creep. That sounds ominous.
It can be a project manager's worst nightmare.
Dramatic. Tell me more.
Imagine planning a weekend trip, right?
Sure.
But then you add more places to visit, more activities.
And it turns into a month-long expedition.
Exactly. And your budget and timeline are shot. That's scope creep in a nutshell. It's about those extra additions that weren't part of the original plan.
So scope management is like saying, nope, we agreed on this and that's what we're sticking to.
Exactly. It's about defining what's essential and what's just nice to have, which can be tough.
I bet. So then we have time management, which in IT seems super important.
Oh, absolutely. Time is precious, especially in the fast-paced tech world. Missing deadlines can be a huge deal.
Especially with those big product launches, right? Everything needs to be ready to go.
Exactly. Time management is all about creating realistic schedules, keeping track of progress, making those adjustments along the way. Yeah, think of those software projects where even a tiny delay can push back the whole launch date.
High stakes.
Exactly. Good time management is crucial in those situations. And, a lot of IT projects live and die by their budget.
Oh, for sure. Got to make sure the project makes financial sense.
Exactly. And that's where cost management comes in.
Makes sense. It's always changing.
Always. New tech popping up all the time. So knowing how to estimate costs, manage budgets,
Keeping those expenses in check.
that's cost management in a nutshell. And speaking of keeping things in check, we can't forget about quality.
Right, because what's the point of a project if the final product doesn't work well?
Exactly. No one wants a buggy app or a website that crashes all the time.
Yeah.
That's where quality management comes in.
So that's about more than just getting the job done.
It's about doing it right, yeah.
Building something that lasts, that people actually enjoy using.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the people involved in these
It's
projects.
the human element.
Exactly. And that brings us to human resource management, which has its own set of challenges in IT.
Especially with remote teams becoming the norm.
It's tricky. You've got team members all over the place, different time zones.
How do you even manage that effectively?
Well, it's about communication, for one.
Of course.
Building those connections, even if it's virtual. Celebrating successes, even small ones. Making sure everyone feels like they're part of the team.
Because even in a digital world, people still crave that connection.
They do. And speaking of communication, that's our next knowledge area.
Right, because if you're not communicating effectively,
Things fall apart. It's crucial in IT, where you've got different teams, different jargon,
developers speaking in code.
designers speaking in visuals, stakeholders just wanting results.
You have a recipe for disaster.
It can be, but good communication management prevents that. It's about making sure everyone is on the same page, that information is flowing, saves a lot of headaches down the road. Now, on to something that's a bit more, shall we say,
Unpredictable.
unpredictable, yeah. We're talking about risks.
And IT projects definitely have their fair share of those.
Oh, for sure. Technology changes so rapidly, there's always something that can go wrong.
So how do you even begin to manage that?
Well, that's risk management in a nutshell. Identifying potential problems early, assessing how bad they could be, and coming up with plans to deal with them.
So you're not just reacting to problems, but trying to anticipate them.
Exactly. Being proactive instead of reactive. Which brings us to an area that's often overlooked, but super important, especially in IT.
Okay. What's that?
Procurement management.
Procurement. That sounds like dot contracts and stuff.
Pretty much. Most IT projects rely on external vendors.
For software, for equipment.
For all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And procurement management is about making sure you're getting the best value for your money.
Finding the right vendors, negotiating good deals.
Exactly. You're like that savvy shopper, but instead of groceries, you're buying technology.
I like that analogy. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. But there's one last knowledge area that's crucial. Stakeholder management.
Stakeholders, those are people who have a vested interest in the project.
Exactly. Could be clients, executives, even end users.
Yeah.
And managing those relationships.
Making sure they're happy.
That's a big part of it. Keeping them informed, getting their input, because ultimately a project is only successful if it meets the needs of the stakeholders.
Makes sense. So we've covered a lot today. The entire project lifecycle, those 10 essential knowledge areas.
We've just scratched the surface, really.
It's true. But for our listeners who are just starting out with project management, what's the one thing they should take away from all this?
That project management, especially in the world of IT, is always evolving.
So being adaptable is key.
It's everything. Embrace those challenges, learn those essential skills, and you'll be well on your way to success.
Great advice. And remember, you don't need to be a certified project manager to start using these principles.
Absolutely.
Whether you're leading a team or working on your own, these skills will make you more effective.
100%.
Now, before we go, something for everyone to think about. We talked about all these different methodologies.
Waterfall, agile.
The whole mix. But what if the future of project management isn't about choosing one method?
Interesting.
What if it's about blending the best parts of each approach?
Creating something totally new.
Exactly. Something that fits the specific project and the team. How can you be a part of shaping that future? That's something to think about.
Great question to end on.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into project management, everyone. Until next time.